In every age, the strength of a person has been measured not by the noise they make, but by the depth of their composure. Real power does not erupt. It gathers, studies, adjusts, and acts with deliberate calm. The world teaches noise, haste, and performance, yet every great transformation begins in stillness. The human mind, when trained to hold silence inside chaos, becomes an instrument sharper than any weapon.
To master that state, one must learn to face storms without reacting, to watch fear without feeding it, and to hold purpose steady when everything else trembles. The secret of endurance is not born in comfort. It grows where pressure insists on breaking you, and you quietly refuse.
Each challenge that arrives is a test of containment. Can you stay whole when the world pulls you apart? Patience is not waiting passively. It is strength under control. It means you can sense the fire, but choose the timing of your spark. Those who rush are consumed by their own flames. Those who observe become architects of destiny. The discipline of silence is not absence of sound, but presence of awareness. When you stop defending your ego and start listening to the rhythm beneath events, life reveals its hidden curriculum. Every setback is a classroom disguised as failure, every delay an invitation to refine your precision. True education is not about gathering facts. It is about training perception. When perception is clean, decisions sharpen, energy focuses, and the unnecessary fades. The person who learns to direct attention becomes a sculptor of moments. Such focus is not gifted. It is built through repetition, self-observation, and the courage to begin again after every fall. Each day is an opportunity to forge your inner metal. You wake up. Test yourself against discomfort, adjust your breath, and move with intention. Small acts of control accumulate into invisible armor. Eventually, you no longer depend on external applause because you have learned to witness your own evolution. The world will call you patient, but patience is only the visible face of understanding. You see the pattern others miss. The storm has a cycle. The wound carries a lesson. The delay hides direction. By standing firm, you become aligned with that pattern, and what once felt like resistance becomes rhythm. Resilience is not resistance to pain. It is dialogue with pain. You listen to its message instead of denying it. When hurt arrives, you analyze it. What belief did this break? What illusion did it expose? Through this reflection, you stop fearing pain and begin learning from it. That shift marks the threshold of maturity. A reactive mind exhausts itself. A reflective mind renews itself. Control, then, is not domination of the outside world, but regulation of the regulation of the inner one. The stronger you become internally, the less you need to prove externally. People will misunderstand this quiet confidence. They may call it indifference, but indifference abandons. Composure governs. The person who governs themselves governs circumstances. This is the essence of transformation. Turning emotion into energy, energy into direction, and direction into destiny. Each experience, pleasant or brutal, is a teacher wearing a different mask. The wise student greets them all the same way, with awareness and gratitude. Through this lens, even mistakes become allies. Failure, when studied, becomes feedback. Criticism, when accepted, becomes calibration. The untrained ego rejects correction and repeats cycles. The trained mind integrates it and evolves. There is quiet joy in this process, a satisfaction born not from victory, but from progress itself. When you live this way, even ordinary actions become sacred rituals of discipline. Waking early, training the body, managing breath, controlling words, each is a thread in the fabric of inner power.
These habits carve neural paths of steadiness. Over time, steadiness becomes identity, and identity becomes destiny. You start influencing the world not by force, but by presence. Presence is energy organized. People feel it before you speak. They notice that when pressure rises, your pulse stays constant. That constancy is magnetic. It draws respect without demand, loyalty without command. But sustaining presence requires purification. You must constantly remove the clutter of unnecessary desires. Desire is not evil, but unexamined desire scatters power. When your wants exceed your wisdom, your energy leaks. So the practice is simplicity. not poverty of ambition, but clarity of direction. One clear purpose can outperform 1,000 distractions. Simplicity gives space for precision, and precision magnifies impact. Every master of any craft understands this. They refine, reduce, and focus until only essence remains. The same principle applies to the art of living. When you strip away the noise, what remains is truth. Control of self is control of fate. To cultivate that, train your attention like an athlete trains muscles. Observe thoughts without chasing them. Detach from outcomes long enough to act with purity. Free. When the mind stops oscillating between past and future, the present becomes potent. Within that moment lies the ability to shape reality. Many speak of manifestation, but few understand that manifestation is not wishing. It is alignment between intention and disciplined action. The gap between dream and achievement is bridged by repetition done with awareness. Consistency is the currency of mastery. It looks simple, almost boring, but behind that simplicity hides profound transformation. The seed does not shout while growing. It simply pushes through darkness every day until light arrives. Likewise, your growth may go unseen for years, but the unseen phase is where foundations solidify. Never envy those who rise quickly. The roots may be shallow. Invest instead in depth. Depth protects you from collapse. To cultivate it, confront your weaknesses without judgment. Observe where you lose control. Anger, fear, doubt. Do not hide them, study them. Each is a dragon of the mind, and your task is to understand its nature. When you face them calmly, they shrink into teachers. The art of mastery is the art of inner conversation. Speak to yourself with truth, not pity. Replace self-criticism with self-correction. Replace excuses with experiments. Every day, test your strength quietly. Can you hold your focus when tempted to friend? Can you act kindly when disrespected? Can you choose progress over comfort? These micro-tests forge macro change. Over time, you notice an expansion of awareness. Situations that once triggered panic now invite analysis. Words that once hurt now pass through. You, like wind. You stop reacting and start responding. That shift marks entry into the higher game of life. In this game, success is not measured by possessions, but by composure. The world's chaos no longer dictates your rhythm. Your rhythm begins to influence the world. People sense it, events bend subtly toward it. You have become a stabilizing force. Yet beware of pride, the silent thief of growth. Pride whispers that you are above correction. Humility reminds you that learning is infinite. To remain humble is to remain powerful, for humility keeps you open to truth. And truth, though sometimes uncomfortable, is the ultimate liberator. Through truth you discover that control does not mean rigidity. It means balance. The strongest tree sways with wind, yet never uproots. Flexibility preserves strength, while stubbornness breaks it. Learn when to yield and when to stand firm. Adaptation is not surrender. It is strategic evolution. The disciplined adapt faster because they observe more and react less. Observation requires silence, the rarest skill in an age addicted to noise.
Silence teaches you to see patterns before they form, to sense intentions before words are spoken. It becomes your hidden advantage. The silent learner perceives what the loud performer misses in business, art, or battle. This sensitivity converts to timing, and timing determines outcome. Therefore, cultivate quiet intervals in every day. Detach from screens, voices, and demands. Let mind and body synchronize. In that space, creativity regenerates, intuition sharpens, and energy refills. The outer world may call it idleness. You will know it as recalibration. When you return, your actions will carry clarity that others mistake for genius. But genius is merely refined awareness in action. Awareness is born from discipline, discipline from purpose, and purpose from understanding your why. Ask yourself often, why do I train, learn, persist? The answer will evolve as you do. In youth, it may be ambition. Later, it becomes contribution. Ultimately, the highest form of strength is service, the use of personal mastery to uplift others. When you reach that stage, ego dissolves into responsibility. You no longer seek victory for self, but harmony for all. Paradoxically, that surrender amplifies influence. The one who no longer craves power becomes its natural vessel. Such individuals move quietly, yet alter history. They do not advertise transformation, they embody it. The path to this level is long, requiring repetition, setbacks, solitude, and reflection, but every moment on it adds weight to your presence. Do not fear the slow pace, fear only stagnation. Progress, however subtle, compounds. Each controlled breath, each patient response, each honest introspection builds a structure within you that no chaos can collapse. Eventually, you realize that mastery was never about conquering the world. It was about understanding your own fire and teaching it to illuminate rather than destroy. That realization is freedom. From there, every action becomes intentional, every silence meaningful, every challenge welcome. You have not escaped difficulty, you have learned to use it. That is the highest education, the study of the self until the self becomes a source of steady light. Growth eventually introduces you to solitude, not the lonely kind, but the clarifying kind. When noise fades, the mind reveals its architecture. You begin to notice how every thought leaves a trace, how every emotion shapes posture and tone. The discipline you once practiced in physical acts now migrates inward. You start editing your own reactions, choosing words with care, moving with economy. This refinement is invisible to most, yet it defines the difference between those who drift and those who drift, and those who direct. In silence, you see that life itself behaves like a living organism testing you for steadiness. It throws delay, temptation, and confusion not to punish but to measure readiness. If you stay centered long enough, the pattern shifts. Resistance becomes recognition. Opportunities that once ignored you start aligning with your rhythm because your frequency has stabilized. The mind that no longer oscillates becomes a magnet for precision. That is when you begin to sense the full dimension of control. Not control over events, but command over interpretation. Two people may face the same storm. One curses the rain, the other studies the wind. The difference lies in narrative. By mastering your inner narrative, you turn chaos into curriculum. Every obstacle becomes a paragraph in your education. In this way, hardship becomes teacher, silence becomes classroom, and self-awareness becomes degree. The true scholar of life does not seek escape from difficulty, but understanding through it. You realize that every emotion, anger, fear, desire, carries data. Anger reveals attachment. Fear exposes ignorance. Desire indicates direction. Instead of suppressing them, you decode them. That decoding transforms turbulence into clarity. Slowly, you outgrow the need to be understood.
External validation loses gravity because internal coherence has replaced it. You act not to impress, but to express alignment with principle. Principle becomes your compass when emotion misleads. Principles like honesty, discipline, humility, respect for time, each a North Star guiding you through human storms. You start noticing how many wander because they chase approval instead of principle. Approval is weather. Principle is climate. Weather changes daily. Climate shapes destiny. By living through principle, you discover serenity even amid rejection. The crowd may misjudge you, yet your pulse remains calm. Calmness is not numbness. It is maturity of response. It allows you to see others' outbursts as projections of their own storms. Instead of retaliating, you reflect compassion. Compassion does not mean weakness. It means comprehension of ignorance. When you understand the roots of others' pain, you stop taking their noise personally. This emotional intelligence deepens your control further. You now operate from understanding rather than reaction, from clarity rather than impulse. Such mastery brings subtle joy, the joy of being unmoved by chaos, yet deeply moved by meaning. And meaning is born whenever effort aligns with purpose. You have trained long enough that work no longer feels like battle. It feels like art. Every task becomes expression of inner order. Even when results delay, satisfaction remains, because value lies in precision of process. In that steadiness, you encounter something profound, peace not dependent on success. It is the peace of competence. You know that whatever comes, you will handle it. That confidence radiates quietly. Others feel it as safety. People begin to trust your presence without needing explanations. Your silence communicates reliability. You have become the calm in their storm. But remember, influence is responsibility. The moment others look to you for balance, your discipline must evolve into example, leadership. Leadership is not commanding followers. It is embodying behavior worth replicating. The strongest guidance is demonstration. Speak little, do consistently, correct gently, forgive swiftly. Forgiveness too is a form of strength. It shows that the wound no longer dictates your identity. You choose direction over resentment. Resentment traps energy in the past. Forgiveness releases it to the present. Release energy fuels creativity. Begin to build, teach, write, design, whatever form your craft takes. It now carries authenticity. People feel truth in it because it is born from tested experience, not theory. That authenticity differentiates impact from noise. The world is full of advice but hungry, for example. When you live your philosophy, even your silence educates. And the greatest education you can offer is proof that discipline breeds freedom. Freedom is misunderstood. Many equate it with indulgence, yet true freedom is mastery of choice. When you can choose restraint despite temptation, patience despite provocation, purpose despite distraction, you are free. Such freedom is rare because it demands continuous awareness. Awareness feels exhausting at first, then natural, then essential. Once established, it becomes your default lens. Through it, you perceive life as training rather than testing. Training implies growth. Testing implies judgment. In training, there is curiosity. In judgment, there is fear. Replace fear with curiosity, and every challenge becomes experiment. You begin experimenting with kindness in hostile spaces, with optimism in failure, with discipline in uncertainty. Each experiment expands capacity. Capacity determines destiny. A small vessel overflows easily. A large one absorbs turbulence without losing content. Expansion, therefore, is survival. To expand, you must confront edges, limits of patience, tolerance, knowledge. Step slightly beyond them each day. Growth is incremental. Force creates fracture.
The wise build gradually, layering stability like a craftsman layering steel. Patience remains the forge. You heat, hammer, cool, repeat. Eventually, what was fragile becomes flexible strength. In that forging, you glimpse a paradox. The stronger you become, the gentler you feel. Gentleness is not the absence of power, but its precise application, only the controlled compassion. You learn to measure force according to need, to speak truth without cruelty, to act decisively without arrogance. This balance between intensity and kindness becomes your signature. The world notices but cannot categorize you because you move by principle, not polarity. You are not loud yet not invisible, not detached yet not dependent. You simply are focused, aware, aligned. In that state, life stops feeling like competition and starts feeling like cooperation with purpose. Even failure becomes dialogue. You ask it, "What are you teaching me now?" The answer shapes your next refinement, and refinement never ends. As long as you breathe, there will be layers to polish. But instead of fatigue, you feel gratitude, for every refinement increases luminosity. Your awareness brightens quietly until one day you realize you have become what you once sought, a steady flame that neither wind nor darkness can consume. This is the silent strength the world misunderstands. It is invisible until needed, humble until challenged, peaceful until provoked, then precise as lightning. Yet even after demonstration it returns to calm, for ego has long been dissolved in service. You do not claim titles, you fill functions. You heal spaces by presence, teach by example, lead by stillness. And when solitude returns, you welcome it like an old friend, knowing that in that quiet lies renewal. You review the journey not as triumph, but as testimony that discipline works. The storms you once feared became the sculptors of your composure. The pain you once resisted became the polish of your perception. The silence you once avoided became the sanctuary of your strength. From that realization springs deep peace, the kind unshaken by praise or blame. You understand now that life will continue to test, but you no longer need to prove. You are not against the world, you are aligned with its rhythm. That alignment is mastery. And mastery, finally, is not destination, but direction. The lifelong practice of responding to chaos with clarity, to fear with faith, to noise with silence. When you can do that, you have tamed the storm within, and no external force can command you again. You have learned to use fire as light, to turn pain into power, to transform existence into education. The journey ends where it began, in silence. But this time the silence is full, not empty. It holds understanding, patience, and the quiet certainty that the strongest voice is often the one that no longer needs to speak.